The Silver Screen Project.
Welcome to the Silver Screen Project, where we look back at a series of films in anticipation of an exciting new cinema release.
But this time we didn't. We talking about Barbie. We went back and watched some Christopher Nolan films for Oppenheimer, but because of the old Barbenheimer release, didn't have time to watch anything for this, but we both wanted to do Barbie as well.
Yes.
So here's just one standalone Silver Screen Project on Barbie. What did you think of Barbie?
Yeah, I really liked it. I really appreciated seeing a non kind of action drama-y film in the cinema, because I don't really see a lot of kind of comedy.
Yeah.
It's like, it was comedy kind of, it had drama moments. It made me feel lots of emotions, I would say.
Yeah.
I think I was probably more emotional throughout this than through Oppenheimer, to be honest.
Yeah.
Different reasons, but yeah, I thought it was a great experience watching it, and a very well made film. I
wasn't expecting Barbie to be the more like existentialist one of the Barbenheimer duo.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I kind of knew a little bit going into it, and we'll keep it spoiler free. Maybe mention stuff that's out there and trailers and that sort of thing. But yeah, I was kind of aware of the premise of going into the real world and questioning certain things, but I didn't think it would get quite as deep, or at least as early on as it does.
Yeah, I was imagining more kind of SpongeBob a sponge out of water, kind of going out into the real world and getting up to shenanigans. No, I thought it was really fun. Obviously, there was some like emotional bits, but in general, I think they really kind of nailed the like aesthetic and stuff that you wanted for the whole Barbie Land stuff, like the setting, all the different like quirks of that world were really fun.
And even just like, you could tell that everything we saw was some sort of Barbie products in the past.
Yeah.
Some of them, like, they referenced directly, like with the clothes being thrown up, was a fun little bit.
Yeah.
And some of it, you just see something like there's an ambulance quite early on, and you're like, that's clearly an actual thing.
Yeah. Do you see in the credits they had a lot of the characters from the thing as the actual Barbie dolls? It's like, oh yeah, that was fun. There was lots of references to that, all the different Barbies talking to Barbies and all the Kens, and then Alan. And it's like it was fun. And it was it really kind of hooked me into that universe in that start. And then when it gets into the actual film, I was like, this is fascinating.
And you can kind of see where it's, once they get into the real world and they've had a bit of experience with the real world, you can kind of see where it's going, and it does keep going in that direction, especially with the kind of semi-villain of the piece, which I won't spoil for this. Once that starts kind of getting revealed in a way, you're like, I can see what's happening here.
Yeah.
And I thought they did a really good job of, I can't really talk about it. I'll talk about it in spoilers, but yeah, I thought it was very funny as well. As I said, not seeing that many comedy films in the cinema, I think that was really appreciated.
Yeah, there was a couple of bits that I proper like laughed out loud. And I was like, that is a great joke, or a great slapstick comedy bit or something.
And there was a couple of musical moments that worked really well. There was some dance moments, little like kind of either dance offs or little synchronized dance.
There's one
scenes
towards the end that was like one of the highlights of the film for
me. Yeah, it was very good. I don't really know how much more I can say without spoiling it. I mean, it had some great messages in it. I think knowing it's a Greta Gerwig film, having seen Lady Bird a while ago and seeing Little Women a couple of times. Little Women's a very well made film, and they do a lot with, or Greta Gerwig does a lot with kind of doing her own spin on it and telling its own story about what it means to be a woman and that sort of thing. So I think
I did find it funny as well, like the response that people like Ben Shapiro getting all angry about it. It's like, what did you expect from a Greta Gerwig Barbie film? Like,
did you see the things where it's like, I made all the 1-star reviews from men into posters, and it was like loads of ones like, they won't stop until we're all gay and stuff like that. And it's like, no, you're kind of missing the point. And and this is what I was going to say, but I'll save it for spoilers. But there's a certain aspect that people seem to be really misunderstanding. Men seem to be really misunderstanding, and they're going, why do they do that? And it's like, this is because it's showing you what the experience of certain people are in real life through the veil of this other aspect. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's go into spoilers then.
Yeah.
So before we get into that stuff, there's certain bits that I really, the opening with the 2001 Space Odyssey like thing was just, I think that's in a trailer.
Yeah, I think the first teaser was pretty much just that. Yeah,
like that was just good fun with the Helen Mirren voiceover.
Yeah, she was very good.
Straight away gets me into another bit of Helen Mirren voiceover that really made me laugh was the bit where stereotypical Barbie Margot Robbie was getting all upset, and she was like, "This is meant to be like an ugly, not happy Barbie. Margot Robbie may be miscast for this, but just go with it." And I was like, "Yeah, that was good. That made me laugh."
Yeah, I thought Ryan Gosling as Ken as well was very good.
Yeah, he was very fun.
Seeing his kind of journey throughout the film was very interesting because you see him at the start, and there's also, I've seen lots of interviews where he's really kind of going for this whole like, Barbie is the main person and Ken's the accessory, which is the way that it is in the kind of the lore in the dolls and all that. And that is the way that he starts off. And you kind of empathize with him to a degree, and then kind of that kind of slightly falls apart as it moves through.
I really enjoyed like kind of the pathetic beach Ken. Yeah. He was fun, and his rivalry with Simu Lee was just like fun, and then his villain turn. It was so silly because like he is the villain,
yes, exactly.
But it's so like comical, like I can't remember the Casa Dojo house.
Ken's Casa Dojo.
And it's like it is
Mojo Dojo Casa House.
Mojo Dojo Casa. It is fun because it's like it's very aware of how silly it is, and it's so like over the top with its silliness.
And I think the scene that I really liked where that's kind of starts off when they're both in the real world and Barbie's like tapping into her emotions and she's trying to like locate the child that she's looking for, and at the same time Ken's seeing the world of like patriarchy, and there's some moments where like there's businessmen and a woman comes up to try and talk to them and they like hold their hand up like, not now, and he's like practicing it to himself. He's like, I don't know, I could say this to women kind of thing, and then him going and applying for all the jobs and stuff. It's a great little sequence.
And it's like he is an idiot, but he's like a lovable idiot.
Speaking
of Ken, his kind of song, well, there's the two bits. There's the when he's going to have the battle with Simu Lee's Ken, and it turns into a big like almost Grease like dance
choreographed dance thing, and then they all kind of come together, and then they realize that they and before that there's the big battle, which is really fun. But that all culminates in them realizing they missed the vote, which is very like funny and silly.
And then the Ken song at the end of I'm just Ken. Like that is it's a great song. I keep seeing TikToks of that, and it gets stuck in my head.
And even the part where they're all playing the guitar, singing to the Barbies, and it's like you stare in my eyes for 5 hours while I sing to you or whatever it is, and it's just...
there's that kind of the bit where kind of so we're jumping around obviously, but the bit where the Barbies kind of come to and are breaking all the trance was so funny with like, oh, just go tell him that like, oh, I haven't seen The Godfather. Can you explain it to me? And things like that. And they make a reference like Justice League.
There's a joke where one of them comes to and she's like, oh, it's like I've just been thinking about Zack Snyder's cut of the Justice League and caring about it or whatever. And it's like,
But all the different way to like get men's attention.
Yes,
just but I'm very like on point. Like,
absolutely,
100%.
And I think that's preceded by America Ferrera doing a great little like monologue which is similar to. Do you remember that BBC sketch about the leading lady? And it was like, you can't be too fat or too skinny. It kind of plays on that whole idea. But that's a really kind of emotional moment where she's really letting loose, and the daughter can see that she's like actually a woman. A lot of this is about like, mums are women too kind of thing. I imagine if you were a daughter to a mother, you'd probably see another aspect, and same for a mother to a daughter kind of thing.
America Ferrera was in it much more than I thought she was going to be. We talked about it recently, Ugly Betty, and it's like she's kind of a central character to this, and she's good fun, and like she's kind of got that serious, like, actually, no, it's tough being a woman and makes all those excellent points, but at the same time is having fun with it. And and they kind of, when they're repeating like that speech to the individual Barbies, they kind of make it into a bit of a joke of like, no, it is still these things, and they all kind of snap out with different lines.
I really liked as well how like it could have been so easy to make her like a sad single mum, but she's in what seems to be a happy relationship, but she's still like depressed and existential, all that. And it's like, you don't have to be in a specific And the dad is just doing Duolingo on his own. He's just not a character at all. It was very funny.
Other thing, I liked all the different Barbies. They all kind of once you kind of get into them, they were different characters, and like President Barbie was kind of her own distinct Barbie, and there was the Doctor Barbie, and it's like these were different people, and they're all good fun. I think we'll talk about the world, the Barbie land. The intro bit where she's getting ready. Firstly saying hello to all the Barbies, and then jumps in the shower, there's no water, and drinks the drink, which then comes back later and there's actually a drink.
And then the third time she drinks the tea really slowly because she's practicing doing it.
And the toast just landing on her plate, and the oversized hairbrush. It's like, these are all just really fun things that add to this universe.
And then seeing that again the next day where, she's, the first of all, she goes, do you guys ever think about dying? And it's like, okay, this is something
suddenly hit,
which is almost like Lego Movie in a way, where I can't remember exactly. I think it's when the main guy in Lego Movie touches the brick or whatever, and he starts seeing crazy visions, and there's real world stuff, and you're like, okay, this film is going in a direction that isn't just about toys, kind of thing.
There is lots of similarities to the Lego Movie, some better than others, but it kind of gave me a similar kind
returning
of
cast member in it as well.
Alan was great, even from the start when he's just like, hi. He was a highlight for me. The bit where he fights off all the construction guys, it's just like, he's just funny throughout this. And at the end when all the Kens are fighting and the Barbies are just partying, and he's just there, just like the happiest he could be. And it's like, he's definitely not a Ken.
No. And there was the two other discontinued versions of Ken as well. There was Sugar's daddy.
Oh yeah,
which was Rob Brydon, wasn't it? Yeah, and the other guy, I can't remember what he was, but he's from Statlet's Flats and a couple other things. Yeah, and Jamie Dimitri was one of the corporate guys with him as well.
Yeah, I saw Rob Brydon on the red carpet. He was like, "I can't wait to see the Barbie film I made. I spent a whole 12 hours working on this." It was like, oh, it's good fun. So I think the journey to the real world and back was fun. We'd see it 3 or 4 times, and it's fun every time.
And they expand on it in more ways than one. I like when the tandem bike is just really long with all the corporate guys on it. It's just very silly.
Yeah. And then obviously there is kind of the important message behind it. I think I didn't really expect going into it, but it's like, actually this is a feminist film for women to be hey, think about our place in the world. And they do kind of some bits I wasn't as sure on, which I'll talk about in a bit, but I think the general gist of it was this is because Barbie's been such an iconic doll for years, it was actually no, they've hit a lot of points. We talked about America Forever speeches, but then Barbie in general, in the real world, is kind of being shocked with
the way that
coming from a world where she is treated as an equal to go into the real.
Well, that's the thing as well, though. It kind of comes around that they decide not to reverse things because it was a reverse before. And this is the whole thing I was thinking of, that if you're looking at it as kind of first class, second class citizens of gender, as it were, in that world, the Kens were the second class citizen, and the whole kind of thing seems to be, to me anyway, a bit. This is really obvious, a metaphor where we're supposed to empathize with their plight because they're a metaphor for women's plight in real life. Kind of thing.
I thought that stuff was really good, and it's do you remember that book and the BBC show Noughts and Crosses, where it's set in an apartheid state where white people. It's kind of similar to that of reversing the powerful one,
really,
to kind of highlight the point. I do think there was some mixed messaging in it, at the end when they've been through they're similar. It's and they take over Barbie Land, and then they're no, Kens, we're still not giving. I thought it was going to be we're better than the real world, so we're going to make it more equal. But then they're I think, oh no, Kens, you can get there in the future. Maybe you'll be equal to women. And I was it was a fun joke.
That's the kind of thing where someone like Ben Shapiro would be oh, this is a anti-men thing. And it kind of is. And it's that's okay.
That's fine. But I feel it would have been, I was kind of expecting them to be Barbie land is better than the real world, so we're going to be more equal because we're going to be the bigger person kind of thing. But it worked.
I guess at the same time, they did lead like a fascist coup of
yeah.
There was a lot more mention of fascism in this than I expected.
Oh, there was that one bit that really made me laugh.
When the girl calls her a fascist. I was like, fuck it hell.
It's the bit after when she goes out and she's like, I'm not a fascist. I don't control the railways and the corporations. And it's like, oh wait, she does know what fascism is. That really made me laugh.
I feel like that was a joke that didn't get any laughs in my screening.
I was
giggling to that
very loudly to that. I think I saw a couple of people look over to me laughing.
I feel like I don't understand that. Yeah, but like that, and like even I actually watching it, I remembered seeing something about someone had picked apart one of the early trailers and being like, I think there might be a fascist chem rally in this film. And it's because of the kind of iconography they've got in the background of the Supreme Court or whatever. And they don't lean super hard into that after that point. But there is clearly this kind of some sort of, there's a vibe there.
The other bit of, when I mentioned mixed messaging that I got, that I wasn't sure about, is when the daughter has that kind of rant at Barbie and she talks about how Barbie set back the feminism movement for years because you need to be skinny and blonde and pretty. They mention that and then just kind of move on from it, and I was like, she made some fair points there and they don't really
I would say
address
it's mixed
again
as well, because there's certain things like even the fascination with, not fascination is the wrong word, the kind of her, like one of the reasons she wants to do her adventure is to avoid having cellulite, but then there's also a message of accepting yourself, and I think it does kind of talk about that in parts as it moves through and say, and also like the cast of the Barbies, they are varied in kind of body shape and size, maybe not as much as you'd expect. It's more like there's a plus size Barbie, and there's a pregnant Barbie, and then there's different ethnicities.
Then they kind of take the piss out of the pregnant Barbie.
But I think that is I feel like you're right. I feel like in the crux of it there could have been a little bit more overt kind of, you know what I mean,
kind of actually address that and be like, or even be like, yeah, you're right, we fucked up, we'll be better kind of thing.
I think there was a couple of mentions of specifically the cellulite thing. I think they did say something like it's fine or whatever, but because they leant so hard on it early on, I don't know, maybe it's just not for us, that joke there. But I mean there's some other fun moments that I noticed because they were right in front of me on the screen. The old woman on the bench when she's kind of noticing how like beautiful age can be, because obviously no one ages, and she is famous, right? She's the daughter. She's the inspiration for Barbie. She's Barbara Handler, which is the name she takes at the end as well. The whole kind of becoming human bit where she's talking to Ruth, all the Ruth stuff was very cute with like the ghost of the creator or whatever she was, and that kind of montagey bit with the Billie Eilish song playing was one of the bits I felt quite emotional in. She's talking about the ups and downs of being human, and she kind of makes her feel it all and all that, and I was like, I like this. This is good.
I've got a couple more things that I wasn't too sure about. And it's like, it's not big things, it's just kind of minor things. Like, so when they first go to the real world, they're kind of very out of place because the real world is very much the real world. And I kind of like that difference. And that's true until they get to Mattel, where it's back to like cartoonish people. Like the whole chase around the corporation was fun, but I was like, this does not feel like the real world
I
at
think
all.
It's supposed to be like, how silly are men, I think was what it was. But it still felt, And I was like, I get that, I
thought it was quite fun. I'd kind of expected them to do that once they turned up at Barbie Land, but I was like, these people seem way too cartoonish to be this actual, like, very, like, solemn real world.
I mean, maybe it was, it's still a heightened, I mean, there's still Barbie Land. Was it a town? Think of it as a town in Sweden or whatever. I thought that was funny. There was some quite good hand waving kind of. Don't think about it too much.
I just see one that you mentioned, Sweden. Apparently, in Sweden and Norway, Kendom, the renamed Barbie Land, was Kenmark. I just have a dig at Denmark then. The other thing that I couldn't ever quite wrap my head around is she goes back to Barbie Land and the Kens have taken over and they've kind of hypnotized all the Barbies. I don't really understand how that happened. Like, how did they get them all under their spell?
I think
it is kind of brainwashing because they snap them out of it.
I think it was that main Ken, Ryan Gosling, came back with such a kind of enlightened sense of patriarchy that he talked all the other Kens into it, and then I think they just took on the roles, and the Barbies just went along with it because they explained it saying they didn't know any better. They didn't have, which that in itself is a little bit like, but they were all strong women.
Yeah, that's
why did they kind of?
I think that's what it was for me. Is that we've shown that they're all kind of really strong women, and then one Ken comes along, and I think
it was the kind of. They talked about like the effects on the real world and how they're kind of linked and stuff. Maybe him going in with this forbidden knowledge just inherently changed the world kind of thing.
Yeah, but potentially.
It didn't really,
I like the twist at the end where he just thought patriarchy meant like horses.
Which is why all the horses are on all the
but they changed the what's it?
The Mount Rushmore
to the horses.
One bit that I liked early on, talking about them all being strong female characters and everything, when it's in the Supreme Court and one of them is like making an argument and she's like, and I'm using both facts, logic and my emotions to make this point, and then neither are detracting from each other kind of thing. And I'm like, yep, that's very. And another thing, the depression Barbie, when she starts feeling depressed, and then it shows like an advert of depression Barbie who rewatches Downton Abbey and whatever.
Pride and Prejudice.
Pride and Prejudice. Yeah.
It's like that was funny. Yeah,
I've seen lots of tweets and stuff about like people seeing it with groups of friends and everyone turning to a specific friend when that bit happened. It's like,
we came at the cinema and Christina was like, I feel personally attacked.
Amy said the same thing.
Yeah. I think in general though, like I don't have anything else specific to say, but I think it's one of those films where like it is kind of an important film to see. I think now and then, like I watch a film, some things like Spotlight or The Big Short, where it's like they're talking about something big and important that I think people should see this. I think more recently, like Promising Young Woman was kind of like that, or more on this. But
I'm feeling left out of all these. I haven't seen any of these films.
You should see them. But I think this was another one that it's like, actually, it's
got a really important message.
It's got an important message, and everyone, whether you're a woman who wants to be empowered or a man that kind of need to. I mean, like it's. Men can't walk in women's shoes every day, so it being spelt out in a fun film like this is a good way of being like, oh yeah, actually, you can see the injustice in the world.
And even that kind of slight kind of trickery of using the Ken's experience to gain empathy from a male perspective if they're going into it with zero empathy for women, which unfortunately some men have. I've seen tweets about people saying they saw it with their boyfriend and their boyfriend just didn't understand it, and it's like, oh, you need to leave that relationship. Like you didn't feel anything. Like I felt more, as I said, in this than in Oppenheimer, and that's not me like virtue signaling or saying I just think it hit, I think because it was closer to reality, and it was, although it's very heightened, there was more of a message in it, I'd say. Yeah. Although they both have important messages, I think it's hard to kind of spell out for me anyway. But,
I think, I mean, kind of the height of that is that first America Ferrera speech. Yeah. And it doesn't just come out of nowhere. Like they've slowly built up to that point. So when you get to that speech, you get where she's coming from and you understand it.
And even right before that, I think the bit that made me like primed emotionally for that is Barbie, Margot Robbie's Barbie being like catatonically depressed. And then she talks about her experience and she's going like, I'm not the president. I'm not this. She's basically saying she's just normal and she hasn't achieved anything. And you're like, oh shit, like that's real kind of thing.
And that's the sort of thing, like you don't need to be a woman to understand that feeling of not achieving anything. So using that kind of familiar feeling to lead you into that, it's like, oh that works. Yeah. Also, Weird Barbie was fun.
When they were like, she's always in the splits, I thought she was always going to be in the splits. I did think it was weird that like she like cleaned herself up by the next scene. I was like, I kind of would have liked all the marks on her face.
I liked also her detailed map of Barbie and then the map of the real world, which is just like drawn by some like 5-year-old or something. So I've got a couple of bits of trivia for this. Actually, another one I saw, not on that.
Okay.
That during the filming of this, Margot Robbie found a bucket list she'd written as a kid, or when she was like a teenager, when she was younger. And one of the things on that bucket list was meet Ryan Gosling. And she found that joy, and like she was like, it wasn't act with Ryan Gosling, it was just meet Ryan Gosling.
She's like, I've met him quite a few times now.
Yeah. But the couple of things I've got is, according to Ryan Gosling, he accepted the role of Ken after seeing his daughter's Ken doll lying face down in the mud next to a squished lemon.
Yeah.
He then took a shot of the doll and lemon and sent it to Greta Gerwig, saying, "I shall be your Ken. His story must be told."
Yeah, I have seen that.
It's quite funny.
Yeah.
And then the other one I've got is, as Alan fights the construction Kens, he quotes the taglines that appeared on his box when he was first released, which were, "He's Ken's buddy," and "all his clothes fit him."
Yes. And one thing that I thought was a funny reference to that, to the premiere, they both wore the same outfit, which is very funny.
Yeah, everyone did seem to have fun with this. Yeah.
Some of the promo stuff that I mentioned, there's a thing that GQ do, like 10 things you can't live without, and they have a celebrity come and talk about things they take with them. And Ryan Gosling did Ken things you can't live without, and he brought loads of Ken things, and it's like the sunglasses and the fake mink jacket.
Yeah,
it's just a nice bit of promo. He's not in character as Ken, but he's been kind of in character as Ken for the last few months anyway.
I've seen that they've started selling the "I am Kenuff" hoodie.
Oh, really? Okay,
but it's like 60 quid or something. I was like, I would be tempted, but maybe not for that much.
No. Official merch is always fucking expensive, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, I think that brings us to the end of this. So the only thing left to ask is whether or not Barbie lived up to the hype for you. Project yes or project no?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't really fully know what I was expecting going into this, but it definitely exceeded expectations. Yeah, how about yourself?
Yeah, definitely similar. Like I thought I was going to go have fun with it. I was really looking forward to it, especially the double bill of Barbenheimer. I went into this being like, this is great, and then it hit so much harder, and I was like, yeah, no, this is fantastic. So yeah, so that is the end of the episode. I don't know what's next on our silver screen list, but we'll figure that out at some point.
I think I know.
Ooh.
I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, cool. But I will see you that time.
Yeah, and if you like this, check out the Project on the same podcast channel.
Yes. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Barbie.
Bye, Ken.